Welcome to tonight's bedtime story. In this gentle journey, you are William Shakespeare. The year is 1601. The Globe Theatre stands tall by the Thames. The ink is fresh on your latest play. And London, with all its smoke, music and mystery, is yours to explore. As you drift into this tale, breathe deeply. Relax. Allow the candlelight of another era to guide you into sleep. If you enjoy stories like this, leave a like and let us know in the comments where in the world you're listening from and what time it is over there. We'd love to hear from you. Now close your eyes and let the city of London carry you. The first golden hue of morning brushes the wooden floorboards, and you wake before the bells of St. Mary le Bow have had their say. It is not the chime that stirs you, but the ideas still lingering from dreams, fragments of verse, the shape of a character's nose, the rhythm of iambic pentameter tapping at the edge of sleep. Your bed is narrow, the linen scratchy, the chamber modest. A single chair leans by the hearth, and your writing desk stands like an altar beneath the window. You sit up slowly, blinking the night away. Your bones creak. Too many late nights hunched over drafts. You're no longer the youth from Stratford, but you have learned to savour this life in London. You rise and splash your face with the chilled water from the basin, gasping softly as it strikes your skin. The city beyond your shutters is stirring. You dress quickly, wrapping yourself in a faded doublet, the stitching loose near the cuffs. No time for tailoring now. There are rehearsals to attend. A thick ledger lies open on your desk, ink dried in the nib. You flip through it. There, in your scrawl, Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, Act 4, Revision. Yes, Hamlet. The prince still haunts you. Even now you're unsure if he is man or shadow. A knock at your door. It's Tobias, the young apprentice you hired last winter. He's a bright lad, barely 15, already with the makings of a player, though his voice hasn't yet settled from boyhood. "Master Shakespeare," he says, peering in, "Mr. Burbage requests your presence at the theatre. He says there are concerns with the staging of the duel." You nod. Always something. Always the dance between words and swords. You gather your satchel. Parchment, ink pot, drafts tied with a faded blue ribbon. As you descend the stairs, the scent of bread from the bakery below catches in your lungs. Your landlady, Mistress Lyle, offers you a nod and a half smile. She's long since stopped fussing over your strange hours. The streets are muddy, horse carts trundling over cobblestone. Vendors call out in the marketplace. Fresh eels, pies, roasted chestnuts. A boy chases a dog through puddles. The sky is grey, but you know the sun will pierce through by noon. You cross over to Southwark, your boots splashing in muck, skirts of your cloak brushing past barrels and buskers. You nod to a tavern keeper who raises a tankard in silent greeting. The scent of stale ale, wood smoke and river salt blends into a perfume that only London could conjure. And there, rising before you like a vision, the Globe, your theatre, your sanctuary, timber-beamed and round as a crown, its thatched roof bristles against the skyline. Already, stagehands bustle about, hoisting ropes, painting flats, mending garments. A hawk circles above, the Thames whispers behind you. Inside, Burbage is pacing. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a voice like thunder, he commands the stage as few can. Today he plays Hamlet, though he complains he hasn't yet mastered the prince's melancholy. "You've given him too many riddles," he grumbles. "The groundlings won't understand a word." You laugh. "They'll understand his heart, Richard. Even fools know grief." You walk him through the duel, how the foils must clash, the poisoned tip swapped unseen, the queen's goblet lifted in trembling hands. The timing must be perfect. You scribble changes onto the margins of your script, reworking lines you'd once thought final. It is never final, not until the audience breathes it. By noon, the troupe gathers in the courtyard. Will Kemp jests with the costumer, ruffling a ruff around his neck. He's been threatening to leave the company, to dance his way to Norwich or beyond. But for now, he stays. Your clown, your fool, your jester of 10 years. You share bread and cheese on a crate, leaning against the timber beams, ink-stained fingers greasy from meat pies. "Write me a role without a wig," grumbles Thomas, who's tired of playing women. You nod. Maybe you will. Maybe there's a heroine waiting for a voice not yet born. Then a messenger approaches, panting, out of breath. A letter from your wife, Anne, back in Stratford. You thank the boy and tuck the sealed parchment into your pocket. You'll read it later, alone. With the afternoon free before curtain, you walk toward the Mermaid Tavern near Cheapside. It is the haunt of poets, philosophers, and scoundrels. The kind of place where ideas ferment like mead. You greet Ben Jonson with a bow. He's already deep into his ale, debating the merits of Greek tragedy with a Dutch scholar who can't keep his eyes open. Ben always did love a good quarrel, especially if it involved syllables or sin. "You're rewriting Hamlet again, Will?" he asks. "Always," you reply, taking a sip. He won't stay still. "He's you," Ben says too quickly. "That's why." You do not answer. Instead, you listen as a young poet recites a sonnet by heart. You know the lines. You remember writing them on a cold winter night, your breath fogging the candlelight. Strange, how words take flight once loosed from the hand. The tavern darkens as shadows lengthen. Candles are lit. Laughter grows bold. But you must leave now. The bell tolls 6. The play awaits. The theatre buzzes. Torches flicker. Groundlings cram the yard, jostling for space, their coins clinking in palms. Merchants, nobles and apprentices rub elbows. The air is thick with smoke and anticipation. You stand in the wings, script rolled in hand. The players are ready, powdered and costumed, nerves taut like lute strings. Act 1. The platform trembles beneath footsteps. Burbage takes the stage. "Who's there?" And so it begins again. As you watch from the shadows, a strange stillness washes over you. You're not a man, not quite, but a vessel. These words, your words, have taken flight, and the people hang on them as though they were lifelines. You mouth the lines with the actors. You know every breath, every pause, every gesture. You feel when the crowd leans in. You feel when the laughter erupts like a kettle boiling over. By the time Hamlet holds Yorick's skull, you are breathless. The moon rises beyond the thatch, and when Fortinbras claims the stage at the end, declaring the prince dead, there is a hush so deep you could hear the city breathe. After the curtain falls and coins are counted, you walk the long way back through dim alleyways and over creaking planks. The Thames glistens under starlight. You smell roasting chestnuts again and hear distant music from a window. You pause at a churchyard, sitting for a moment on a cold stone bench. You take out Anne's letter, finally breaking the seal. She writes of the children. Judith is growing tall. Susanna has learned to read one of your sonnets aloud. She writes of Stratford, how the Avon has frozen early, how your father's old house still smells of apples and straw. You close the letter and hold it close. You miss them. But here, in London, is your work. Your words. Your strange, shimmering kingdom. Tomorrow you will rise again, rewrite, rehearse, rebuild. But for now you return to your chamber, light a single candle, sit once more at your desk, and as the city quiets to a hush, you take up your quill and write. The candle burns low, and the night deepens around you, wrapping London in its quiet shroud. You are still at your desk, the flicker of the flame dancing across the ink on your fingers. Your thoughts adrift somewhere between memory and invention. The world has fallen still, yet your mind is alive, bursting with half-formed phrases and spectral voices. You write with care, your hand steady, though the hour is late. The room carries only the sound of the quill's soft scratch and the wind nudging the shutters. You're working on a new scene. Not for Hamlet, he's resting for now, but something else. The rhythm is looser, the imagery warmer. Perhaps this one will be a comedy. You're not sure. The story often knows itself before you do. You pause to sip from a pewter cup. The wine is cheap, but it softens the edge of thought. You rub your eyes, feeling the heaviness settle behind them. Your back aches from the long hours. You think briefly of bed, but something compels you to remain just a little longer to complete the shape of the scene. You hear footsteps below, the creak of stairs. Then a knock at your door, soft, hesitant. It is Tobias again. You frown. The hour's late. I know, he says, his voice small. But a man's come looking for you. Said he's a messenger from court. You stand, heart quickening. From court? Tobias nods. He waits at the tavern. Wouldn't give his name. You wrap your cloak around your shoulders, the chill of night seeping through the seams, and descend into the London fog. The street is hushed, shrouded in silver mist. Lanterns sputter on posts, their light thin and trembling. You make your way to the tavern across the lane, the Fox and Rose, a familiar haunt, quieter than the Mermaid but no less full of stories. Inside, the man is waiting. Tall, dark-cloaked, his hat pulled low. He sits alone in the corner, a tankard untouched before him. "You're Shakespeare," he says without preamble. "I am," you reply. He slides a letter across the table. The wax seal is red and thick, the crest unfamiliar. "It is from a patron," he says, standing. "You are to read it tonight." Before you can speak again, he is gone, vanished into the murk like a ghost from your stage. You turn the letter in your hands, examining the seal. You break it open, the parchment stiff and scented faintly of lavender and ink. The words are precise, elegant. "Master Shakespeare, your reputation precedes you. I have read your works and watched your players with great interest. I write now with a request, nay, an invitation. I host a gathering in 2 nights' time, attended by those who might appreciate your talents. A new commission may be proposed. If you are willing, come to the house on Lombard Street. Midnight. Bring nothing but your wit." A friend of the crown. You read the letter twice more. You do not know this friend. But such invitations are rare, and in these precarious times they may bear fortune, or danger. You return home beneath a quiet sky, your thoughts thick with speculation. Who is this patron? What play could they want? When you reach your room, the candle is burned down to its base. The chamber is cold. You tuck the letter into your satchel and undress slowly, the day's fatigue finally descending over you like a curtain. You lie back, eyes closed, the mattress hard beneath you, but the pillow blessedly soft. You hear the faint hoot of an owl outside the window, and a carriage rolling far off on the stones. Sleep comes soon, but before it does, you dream. You dream of stages rising from fog, of kings and jesters, of poison and wedding rings. You dream of a woman laughing in the gallery, and of your father's voice calling across the Avon. The world of dream and play folds into one. When morning breaks again, the sky's pale and gold. You wake slowly, the dream still clinging to you like dew. You stretch, feeling the echo of the day before in your shoulders, and rise once more into the rhythm of your strange, beautiful life. There is much to do today. You break your fast with a heel of bread and a slice of salted pork, washing it down with weak ale. Mistress Lyle has already left for the market. The house is silent but for the creak of your floorboards. You set about preparing for the day's rehearsal. Much Ado About Nothing is to be staged again, and Burbage has taken to playing Benedick with far too much self-admiration for your taste. You make a mental note to remind him that the role is not about the actor, but about the story. You gather your scripts and pages, double knot the satchel, and wrap yourself again in your cloak. Outside, London is already pulsing with noise and energy. The bell at Bow Church tolls the 8th hour. As you walk, a passing chimney sweep tips his cap. A fishmonger shouts from the river's edge. A preacher on the corner reads from the Book of Revelation to no one in particular. The scent of roasting onions and coal smoke fills the air. At the Globe, the company is already assembled. Today is a full run-through, and the theatre must be ready for the Queen's cousin, who is said to be attending incognito. You take your place among them, watching, listening, guiding. You shout corrections from the floor, adjust a gesture here, a tone there. When the lovers quarrel, you remind the players that wit is sharper when spoken gently. When the fool enters, you ask for less noise, more pause. Comedy, you've learned, is not noise but timing. The players respond well, they trust you. By midday the sun is high and warm and the rehearsal is done. You sit with Burbage on the edge of the stage, legs dangling, watching a pair of ravens bicker over crusts in the pit. "Why do we do it, Will?" Burbage asks. "Why keep playing the same stories again and again?" You consider. Then answer softly, because no one hears them the same way twice. He nods thoughtfully and says no more. Later, you walk along the river. You find a quiet spot by the old bridge, where the rush of water masks the noise of the city. You sit on a worn stone and pull from your satchel a fresh sheet of parchment. You begin to write. Not a play, not yet, just fragments, lines, images, a woman in moonlight, a storm at sea, a dagger buried not in flesh, but in guilt. You're not sure what it is, but it is something. The page begins to fill and time begins to vanish. The city moves on around you, carriages and bells, cries and clatter. But here, by the water, it is just you and the words. They come as they always do, sometimes slowly, sometimes in floods, but they come. When at last you look up, the sun is dipping low again, casting a copper light across the Thames. The day is nearly done, but your thoughts are only beginning to take shape. You rise, tuck the pages away and begin the walk home. The invitation waits in your pocket. Tomorrow you will answer it. Tomorrow you will see what fate, what patron, what commission awaits you in Lombard Street. But tonight you will write. You will write until your candle gutters low and your mind grows still and sleep finds you once again. You wake earlier than usual, before even the sun has stretched its fingers across the rooftops of London. A thin fog blankets the city, blurring chimney stacks and softening the edges of the streets below. The sounds of the morning, horses on wet cobbles, a distant cockerel, the creak of a tavern sign, are muffled as if the world itself is whispering. Today is the day of the invitation. The letter from the mysterious friend of the crown rests folded in the pocket of your cloak, its crease worn from the number of times your fingers have checked that it's still there. You do not know what the night will bring, and that uncertainty weighs heavily, but not unpleasantly. There is something stirring in you, like the beginning of a new play, a familiar tension, a promise not yet fulfilled. You eat a quiet breakfast, a bit of oatcake and a slice of hard cheese, then sit by the small window and let the soft light pour over your desk. You don't write, not yet. You simply watch the slow awakening of the world outside. It is in these moments, these rare pauses, that you feel closest to something divine. Tobias arrives with a bundle of notes from the theatre. He chatters, as he always does, about the dog that got loose during rehearsal, about Will Kemp claiming he saw a ghost in the trapdoor pit. You half listen, smiling as you sip from a pewter mug of warmed cider. You write a few lines to Anne. You don't mention the invitation, not yet. Instead, you ask after Judith's health, Susanna's studies, and whether the apple tree in the garden has bloomed early again this year. Your letters to her are rarely grand, rarely poetic. They are more like diary entries, fragments of your real self, stripped of metre and metaphor. The afternoon is spent at the Globe once more. You rehearse a scene from Julius Caesar, and the lines, ones you wrote years ago, feel somehow different today. Cowards die many times before their death, says Burbage, his voice solemn. You hear it as if for the first time. After rehearsal you slip away. You take the long road through the quieter lanes, away from the bustle of Southwark, passing old stones and silent churches. The sun begins to dip low, casting long shadows across the ground. A chill settles into the air, and the sky turns the colour of parchment steeped in red wine. Back at your room, you prepare slowly. You bathe in a shallow basin, the water cold but bracing. You trim the edge of your beard with care, adjust the buttons of your best, though still modest, doublet. You choose a quill to carry with you, slipping it inside your cloak like a sword, a writer's weapon. You leave before midnight, navigating the winding alleys with only the moon to guide you. The city is quieter now. The market stalls are shuttered. The drunks are fewer. The watchmen nod as you pass. Lombard Street lies in the heart of London's wealth. You can feel it in the stone, in the quiet confidence of the buildings, in the silence that does not fear intrusion. You find the house easily. It is grand but not ostentatious. The door is carved oak, lit by a single lantern. You knock. Once. A servant answers. He says nothing, only gestures for you to follow. You're led through a narrow corridor past thick curtains and rooms lit by firelight and candles. In the drawing room sits a woman. She's not old, but not young either. Her gown is fine, though not adorned. Her posture is graceful, but firm. There is something regal in her bearing, an ease of power that does not need to announce itself. She gestures for you to sit. "You've come," she says. "Good. You've written for actors, for nobles, and even, it is said, for Her Majesty. Now I ask you to write for England." You meet her eyes, unsure what she means. She speaks plainly, but her words are carefully chosen. She explains that the court has need of stories, not sermons or proclamations, but stories that carry ideas to the people. The Queen's health, she says, is waning. There is talk of succession. The people are restless. Theatre, she believes, is a tool that can ease fear, temper rebellion, stir pride. You will write something new, she says, a history perhaps, but not one of dates and kings, one of soul, of courage, of what it means to be English. You listen in silence. This is not the first time someone has asked you to write for a cause, but this feels different, heavier, more dangerous. You will be paid well, she adds, and protected. The word lingers. Protected. You think of the men who have vanished from the stage for writing words the court did not like. You think of Marlowe, of his bright fire snuffed too soon. You do not give her an answer. Not yet. She seems to understand. She nods once and offers you a small parcel, coin, a seal, and another letter. You thank her, quietly. Then you leave. The air outside feels thinner, the night colder. The moon is high, silver on the rooftops. You walk back slowly, your boots echoing against the stone. Back in your chamber, you do not light a candle. You sit at your desk in the dim, unroll the letter she gave you, and read its contents. It is a contract, brief, written in formal script with space for your name. You stare at it for a long time. Then finally you place it in the drawer, beneath your copy of Plutarch's Lives, and close it. Sleep does not come easily. Your mind turns and turns, replaying every word, every gesture, every possible play you could write, every character that might carry the burden she asked you to bear. At some point in the early hours your eyes close, and you dream, not of stages or kings this time, but of your childhood in Stratford. You're by the Avon again, barefoot in the grass, listening to your father read aloud while the sun catches in the ripples of the stream. There are no politics, no patrons, only words and wonder. When you wake, the candle has burned out. Dawn is just beginning to brush against the sky once more. You rise, slowly, and begin again. You rise with a heaviness in your chest, not sorrow, not dread, but the weight of decision. The kind that can only be made alone, and not all at once. The kind that steeps like tea in water, its colour and meaning slowly blooming over time. The light outside is still soft and pearled. The clouds above London hang like wool, and the air is damp with the scent of distant rain. You sit at your desk for a long time, hands resting in your lap, the untouched quill lying on the open page before you. The contract still sits hidden beneath Plutarch's Lives. Its presence is loud in the quiet. You do not reach for it, not yet. Instead, you open the shutters to let in more of the morning. You listen to the gentle bustle of London waking, wagon wheels, the clop of hooves, a dog barking distantly. From somewhere nearby, a woman sings as she sweeps her stoop. The tune is simple, but beautiful in its way. A melody you've heard before, perhaps in Stratford, perhaps in a dream. You pour water into the basin and wash your face, then pull on your cloak. The globe awaits, but you do not go there directly. Your feet turn north toward the river, past the butchers and the bookstalls, past the grocers and the smell of roast fowl. You find yourself drawn towards St. Paul's. The cathedral looms grand and quiet, its stones darkened by soot and time. You enter not for prayer, but for pause. The air inside is cold, and it smells of stone and wax and dust. You take a seat on one of the benches near the back, letting the silence settle around you. You think of your father, of Hamnet, of Anne and the girls. You think of your players, of the lines you've written and the ones still waiting to be born. You think of the woman on Lombard Street and the request she made, to write for England. What does it mean, you wonder, to write for a nation? You've written for queens and groundlings alike. You've made noblemen laugh and children weep. You've raised ghosts from the grave and banished dukes to forests. You've watched your words tumble from mouths and land on ears, eager or dull or drunk or changed. But now perhaps you're being asked to do something greater than entertain. Perhaps your stories can shape more than a single night in a wooden theatre. Perhaps they can become something lasting, something that reaches beyond your own time. It frightens you a little, but it also calls to you. You leave Saint, pulls with no clearer answer than when you entered, but your heart feels steadier, your breath deeper. You make your way to the Globe. Rehearsals are already underway when you arrive. Burbage greets you with his usual half-smile. "You're late," he says, but there's no bite in it. You sit and watch for a while, letting the players work without your notes. Kempe is still too loud, Thomas still too shy, but they are trying. They are learning. Tobias brings you a cup of small ale and a roll. You thank him. You notice how tall he's gotten since last winter. After rehearsal, you sit with the troupe beneath the gallery, sharing a wheel of cheese and a story or two. They laugh at your tale of the nobleman who once fell asleep mid-soliloquy. Kempe offers to recreate the snore to roaring approval. Later you wander backstage, checking props, noting which costumes need mending. You do this not because you must, but because you care. The Globe is not just a stage. It is your church, your ship, your home. And yet something else waits now. You return to your chamber as the sky dims into twilight. A light rain begins to fall, tapping gently against the glass. You sit once more at your desk, and this time you reach for the letter. You read it again, slowly. The request, the promise, the risk. Then you take a fresh sheet of parchment and begin to write. Not the play, not yet, but a reply. You write carefully, deliberately. You do not offer a full yes, nor a full number. You speak of your gratitude, of your caution, of your understanding that stories wield power, and that such power is not to be held lightly. You sign it simply, William Shakespeare. Then you fold the letter, seal it, and place it beside your satchel to deliver in the morning. You do not know yet what story you will write, only that it is coming, that it is rising within you like a tide, that something in your soul has begun to stir. You light a final candle, you open your notebook, and you begin to write again. But this time it is not Hamlet or Benedick or Lear that take shape. It is someone new, a man uncertain of his place, a man walking a tightrope between duty and desire, a man who sees the world not in absolutes, but in shades of grey, a man like you. The words come slowly, then faster. The rain grows heavier outside, the city retreats into shadow, and still you write, until your eyes droop, until the candle gutters, until the ink runs dry. When at last you lie down, the chamber is dark, but for the glow of the dying ember in the hearth. The room is quiet. The world outside softens once more into dreams. You breathe in and out slowly, and sleep takes you, just as it has always done. In the end, you are not just William. You are the stage. You are the page. You are the dream in every heart that ever wondered, to be or not to be. And for tonight, simply to be is enough. You sleep longer than usual. When your eyes finally open, they take a moment to focus. The soft morning light presses gently through the shutters, settling across the wooden floor in golden bars. Your neck aches, stiff from falling asleep at the desk, and the wax from the candle has pooled and cooled beside your quill, hardened like spilled thyme. Your hand lies upon a page, half written, ink smudged slightly beneath your fingers. You breathe in slowly. The play you began last night still sits open before you, its words raw, unpolished. The first act is finished, the second begun, though you barely remember writing the last scene. The character, King Aaron, has started to speak more clearly. He comes to you as many do, not in a rush, but as though walking out of the mist. Each page brings him closer. You stand and stretch, hearing your joints protest. You move to the basin and splash cold water onto your face, your breath catching for a moment at the chill. Outside, London is just waking. You can hear the wheel of a cart turning slowly on damp cobblestone, the bark of a dog, the gentle creak of a swinging sign down the lane. You eat simply, just bread today, torn from the end of a loaf and a mug of small ale. Mistress Lyle has already left for the market. Her shawl is gone from its hook, and the scent of her lavender soap lingers faintly in the hallway. You think of her kindness. She has asked little of you during your years here, only that you pay on time and keep your ink off her curtains. She once confessed that she cannot read, but loves the sound of your words when they drift through the floorboards late at night. You take that with you as you step into the street, another small weight in your satchel of purpose. Today, you do not go to the Globe. Not yet. You need space. Something wider than the timber bones of the theatre. Something quieter than the clatter of apprentices learning their lines. You let your feet carry you through the morning city, past butchers with steaming stalls and young boys running bread to inns. The Thames glints in the distance like a blade held under moonlight. You cross into Fleet Street and wind your way to a garden behind St. Bride's. It's hidden well, tucked between stone walls and leaning trees. A quiet patch of grass, a wooden bench, and a crooked elm that has stood there longer than you have lived in London. You sit, spreading your papers across your lap. The wood beneath you is damp, but the sun is warm. You look again at your opening scene. Aaron, your imagined king, has returned from a battle not with enemies, but with himself. He is weary, and so are his people. His court whispers of the end of days, of a country in transition. The Queen is dead. A new reign is coming. Not quite England, but almost. You write the words. What remains of a crown when the head beneath it forgets the weight it bears? You pause. The breeze rustles the elm's branches gently overhead. A bird trills once, then flits away. You dip your quill again and continue. You write of the Chancellor, a character who speaks in riddles but sees clearly. Of a young scholar named Elias, who believes stories can change the course of kingdoms, and of Aaron's daughter, bright and fierce, who sees what others refuse to name. You forget the city for a while, forget the court, forget even the commission tucked in your satchel. There is only the world you're building, line by line, voice by voice, and in that world you find your own questions reflected back at you. Not as answers, but as possibilities. When the bells toll noon, you realise your fingers are sore. You've written nearly 10 full pages. Dialogue, stage direction, pieces of poetry that may not survive the next revision, but needed to be spoken today. You gather your pages and slip them into your satchel, then walk slowly back through the city, letting your eyes rest on the details around you. A boy reciting Latin outside a schoolhouse, a woman hanging linens from an upstairs window, a man with one leg and a flute, playing a tune older than your country. Each of them, you think, deserves a play of their own. At the Globe, the players are rehearsing Much Ado About Nothing. You step into the shadows of the gallery, listening as Burbage mutters Benedick's lines beneath his breath, squinting into the script with theatrical frustration. I do love nothing in the world so well as you. Is not that strange? You smile. Thomas delivers Beatrice's retort with new sharpness today. He's grown braver since last summer. His voice carries now, and he's learned the trick of pausing just long enough for laughter before speaking again. You take a seat near the edge of the stage. When the scene ends, Burbage spots you. You're quiet today, he says. Plotting something? Writing, you reply. He raises an eyebrow. Another comedy, I hope. We've had our fill of dying princes. Not a tragedy. Not quite, you say. He offers you a tankard and you drink. The ale is warm and bitter. You remember, he says, when we first spoke of Julius Caesar? You said the knife was never the thing. It was the silence before it. You nod. Well, he continues, your new silence has been loud, Will. Whatever you're writing, let it be worth the stillness it costs. You place a hand on his shoulder. He does not ask more. Back in your room that evening, you reread the day's pages by candlelight. You make only a few changes, tighten a phrase here, strike a line there. But most of it stays. It feels honest. It breathes. You light a second candle and write a letter to Anne. You tell her about the play, not in detail, but enough that she knows it matters. You ask about the girls. You ask about the Avon. You ask about her dreams. You fold the letter carefully and seal it. Then you return to your script. You read it aloud, softly. Not for yourself, but as though the globe were already full. As though the audience sat beneath the open sky, breathless, listening. Your voice wavers in parts, steadies in others. You imagine Kempe playing the Chancellor, with a limp and a knowing smile. You imagine Thomas as Elias, earnest and filled with wonder. You imagine Burbage as Aaron. And for a moment, just a moment, you see it all. The stage, the firelight, the hush before the final line. A play not to glorify kings, but to ask something deeper. What endures when the crown falls? You sit long after the reading is done. The candle burns low, the rain starts again. And you, alone in your chamber, close your eyes. Not to sleep, not yet, but to hold the shape of it. This thing you are making, this offering, this gift of story to a world that doesn't yet know it needs it. And then, at last, you let your breath slow. You let the silence return, and you sleep. You do not remember falling asleep, but you wake with your head resting on your folded arms, the candle long burned out, and the faintest grey glow slipping through the window. The quill lies across the final page of the act you finished last night. The ink has dried in a half-formed word. Your back aches, and your fingers are stiff, but your heart feels light, as though something has been emptied from you that needed release. You rise slowly, carefully, letting your joints remember movement. The play sits before you in a neat stack, 12 scenes, 4 acts. The 5th is not written, but you do not mind. It is forming still. You will write it when the characters are ready to speak again. The world beyond the shutters is quiet. A light rain patters gently against the wood. London is draped in that familiar early hush, where only the milkmen and the street sweepers stir. You dress and gather your pages. Today you will share it. Not with the court, with your players. They are after all your first audience. The globe is still shuttered when you arrive, but you have the key. You enter through the back and walk beneath the rafters, letting your footsteps echo softly through the belly of the theatre. You sit in the centre of the stage and place the pages before you. And you wait. One by one they trickle in. Kempe yawning and shaking rain from his sleeves. Thomas, already mouthing lines he hasn't yet read. Burbage, with 2 cups of hot cider and a raised brow. You wrote a new one, he says, more statement than question. I did, you answer, offering him the second cup. The others gather on the stage floor, forming a loose circle. No fanfare, no introduction. Just a few tired, curious actors waiting for you to speak. So you do. You read. Your voice starts quietly, like a flame just catching. Then it grows, steady, sure. The first scene unfolds. A kingdom in mourning. A prince returned from war. A court divided between wisdom and ambition. You see their faces change. Thomas leans forward. Kemp stops fidgeting. Even Burbage is still. They are listening, and you are carried by it, by the rhythm of it, by the way the words lift from the page and begin to breathe in the timber bones of the globe. It is not finished. You tell them so. But they do not mind. They begin asking questions, offering suggestions. They want to play it. Not today, but soon. There is excitement in their voices, and something more. Hope. Later, you walk alone by the Thames. The rain has stopped, and the water glimmers faintly in the afternoon light. You pause on the bridge, watching the boats drift slowly beneath. A woman sells violets from a basket. A child chases a hoop across the cobblestones. Somewhere, a lute is being tuned. London, as ever, sings its strange and muddied song. You take out a sheet of parchment from your satchel, and with no hesitation at all you begin to write the final act, not with a death, but with a coronation, not of power, but of promise. A new monarch, young and unsure, asking only this of his people: remember me not for what I am, but for what I try to be. You let the words come like breath, and they are soft, and they are true. That night in your chamber you seal the last page with wax. You place the script into your drawer beside the letter from Anne, the crown's request, and the earlier plays that earned you coin and favour and fame. You light a candle, not to work, but to rest. For tomorrow you will send the play to Lombard Street, and let them read what you have written, not out of fear or loyalty, but from love. And what they do with it is not yours to decide. You lean back in your chair and listen to the sound of the wick flickering in the quiet. You are not a king, not a prophet, not even a legend. You are a man with a quill, and that, for now, is enough. As you lie down, the rain begins again, soft against the glass. You close your eyes, and with it, another day ends. A day of theatre, of letters, of questions, of beginnings. And as sleep gathers round you once more, you hear them. The voices of your players, the murmur of the river, and the echo of a stage waiting for tomorrow's light. Good night, William. Sleep now. Your words will wake again.